So, should you use the best builds in the game? Okay, well, yes. I guess the short answer is yeah. You should probably use the best builds in the game, right? However, stick with me for the long version. I think it makes some good points. Kia ora Tefano, I'm Gio, and/or Bucky. Today, we're going to touch on a subject that's been on my mind for a while, and it came up in stream the other night, and that is, should you use the best overpowered builds in the game? Now, this isn't specific to Wonderlands, however, Wonderlands is what I've been playing of late, so it's where it's come up. So I thought I'd cover it sort of in a Wonderlands-esque fashion. In every game, there's going to be those builds that are hugely overpowered, they're really beautiful for clearing mobs and dealing with ads and, you know, doing all that sort of stuff. And then there's the other ones where you can one-shot bosses at a click of a button. Good for farming, but I don't know. Are they the best to use? I mean, even personally, I'll save a couple of these builds to my phone or, you know, write them down on a bit of paper so that I can easily swap between them. And they're good fun to play with, and that's, I think, the main thing, right? We all want something easy to use, but it comes at a few costs. See, the issue that I always find with these is people tend to get the new games and then complain when there's nothing else to do. However, what they've done is run through with builds that are overpowered, however you want to think about them. They do make the game easier. Some of them make them more fun. However, they do make the game shorter if they're easier. And personally, I mean, I still love all of these games anyway, but you do find them slowing down from time to time. I don't know about you, but I do love using these builds and checking out others like, you know, Killer 6, Jolts, Moxie, Nick 2, those guys. Awesome, put huge amounts of effort into these builds, and they're so fun to use, providing you can find the right gear. And how do you get the best gear? Well, you farm stuff, right? But how do you farm efficiently? You do it with the best build, right? So how do you farm with the best builds? If things get too easy, you just get bored. And if things get too hard, it's just frustrating. And now, I'm a dad. I have another job. And what I want is to sit down at the end of the day and be able to play a game that I enjoy. And obviously make videos like this. And I get frustrated and I don't want to go to bed like that. That's not what I want at the end of the day. It's not going to be enjoyable. But I also don't want it to be too easy as well. Like, I don't want to just be like, that was short. What are we doing? So how do you find the right balance? I guess at the end of the day, it comes down to what you want out of the game. You know, do you want the challenge? Do you want to have it be a bit slower, but really push yourself to get it done? Or do you want it easy? I don't get to game as much as I would like. However, I also like to challenge myself. So how do you find the balance? You know, I want to make it easy enough to make it worth my while, but I want to make it challenging enough that I feel like I've actually got my money's worth out of the game, and it's actually, you know, I'm playing it fun. I'm making it interesting to do. Not just going in and go, bam, everything's dead. Okay, off we go. We all, myself included, like to be the first to discover things, right? You know, new weapons, new gear, new builds, this thing one-shots this thing clears whole rooms of ads. We all like to say, hey, look, I found this. Look, I'm the first one, I did this. So I think that's where Wonderlands comes in. It's good fun. It has a lot going for it. The story mode was fun. The side quests are fun. But what's the best way to get the loot? Well, you have to get through the story mode to get to the end game to get a better chance at getting better loot, right? Because that's what we all want out of it. We want the best loot. But how do you get to the end? You have to farm. What do you use to farm? Gear. Where do you get the gear? From farming. What do you use to farm with? You see where the issue comes. And that's where people look to, oh, what's the strongest build? Maybe I've got some gear for that. Maybe I've got, you know, maybe I'm running the best character. Maybe I can farm without needing all this gear. So we turn to people that have had a look at the best builds, the best weapons to use with that build, the best accessories. The loot dice was quite a good idea on the surface of it. Implementation may have been a bit of a different thing. What's a good way of getting loot as you go? Well, we can increase our loot luck with the dice, right? Seems sensible. I mean, there's a lot of them. I mean, it may have paid to, you know, turn the numbers down a few, but at the end of the day, it was a way of boosting your loot luck as you run through the game. Another issue, if Wonderlands hadn't implemented the loot dice, might have been that, you know, what was the best farm to do in Borderlands 2 when you'd finished the first couple of missions? You'd go over to Savage Lee and get a Harold, right? You'd have access to that very early on in your campaign, and from that, you'd have a weapon that is possibly one of the best in the game, and would definitely carry you from, say, level 12 to level 25, and maybe even beyond, depending on who you're running. And that's not exactly the best for game longevity, is it? So how do you deal with that? You introduce loot dice, so that at lower levels, you're less likely to get anything that's going to be too overpowered and will force you to only use that weapon throughout the rest of, you know, as long as it's viable. However, with loot dice, it limits what you can get early on, which means that you have to actually put a bit of thought into your builds, what weapons you're using, you know, finding nice ones. One of the best things I found was running through side missions, side quests on Wonderlands. They're some of the best ones. There is some amazing ones out there, not just for the loot, though that is good. And if you want to check out what I think is the best side quest rewards, you can have a look at down the bottom here, or I'll link it up the top over there. That way. They're not just good for the loot; they're good for the actual story as well. There's some amazing bits and pieces in there, like the Murph quest, which is just Smurfs, but Murph, you know, because Gearbox. That's why. As you get through, you come towards the end of the game, you pretty much leveled up, and then you go into the Chaos Chamber. Now, does one choose, you know, the difficult path? We choose the harder modifiers, but better rewards, or you go a bit easier and try and maybe get a few less crystals, but still get through them. And I guess it comes down to that thing of balance again, right? Try it both ways. Try it one way. Make it as easy as you can on yourself. Go nuts with these overpowered builds, or, you know, challenge yourself. Limit yourself to maybe purple weapons, or, you know, try a different build for a change, one that's not as overpowered. I want to touch on something not Wonderlands related for a second, and just bear with me. Destiny 2 has released the Witch Queen this year, and with the Witch Queen came a legendary mode for the story. Optional, obviously. You don't have to play through on the hardest mode if you don't want to. But did everyone play through on legendary mode first time around? Most people probably did. I know I did personally, and it was possibly one of the most rewarding experiences I've had in Destiny 2. Playing through solo, on legendary, with tricky boss fights and lots of work to get through these levels, it made it rewarding when you got to the end and you got good loot. But obviously, you didn't have to do that. You could play on normal mode, and that was fine. You'd get through, you'd know what the story is, you know, the details behind it. You'd get through to the rest of the game, you know, the bits that happen after the story in Destiny. You'd get some good loot. Maybe not as much as you would have done on Legendary. However, you know, depends what you want out of it, right? The other thing you do, have a mix. I played through Legendary. I did some normal. And that was just depending on whether, you know, I had a couple of hours to spend at the end of a night, or I had, you know, half an hour where I could jump on and just muck around for a bit. But you know what it felt like? It felt worth it at the end of the day to play Legendary mode. It was challenging. It was rewarding. It made it fun and so satisfying when you got through. Maybe I wasn't one of the first to complete the story mode, but that didn't matter to me. I took my time on it, and it made it feel like I'd actually played the game properly. It felt like this was how the developers had meant it to be. You know, you get to use and test your build out. So at the end of the day, play your way, I think is what I'm trying to say mostly. Also, I feel like if people are going to be running through as quickly as possible, and then getting to the end and complaining that there's nothing to do, maybe they've missed out a bit in the middle. Maybe they've missed out a bit of, oh, actually, maybe I should take it a bit slower. Maybe I can, you know, just... Anyway, look, I've begun to ramble here, so I'm just going to kind of wrap things up. I think that these builds are some of the best fun that you can have in the game. But they do kind of lead down the path of, well, if it's too easy and you finish it quickly, then how are you going to feel about the game? Probably like it's a bit lackluster, right? But short. But realistically, that wasn't the way that the game was supposed to be played. So it's kind of here and there, like 50-50 either way. Found that balance. Anyway, I've been Gio. Thanks for tuning in. If you want to hit the like and subscribe button down below, it'd be much appreciated. This is video number 2 of all time. Feel free to stop by the stream. I'm live every Tuesday, Thursday, Sunday. It will be New Zealand time, so keep an eye on that. Anyway, enough rambling. Ka kite. Stay safe, be kind, and I will see you again in the next one. Enjoy.